Good afternoon, or should I say good evening. This is Greer McVay coming at you from, well, sunny California, although it's the sun's starting to set. So this is my first podcast. For some reason, and I'm not quite sure the reason, I'm a little nervous. I'm in my backyard by myself talking to a camera. I can turn it off, I can start it back up, I can edit it, I can do all kinds of things. So I don't know why I should be nervous. Besides which, I don't know most of you. I do know, obviously, a lot of you, because I'll send this out to my friends and family network. But at the end of the day, I think I'm a little nervous because this is really important to me. I've been talking about doing a podcast for quite some time. And then today was just the day to do it. So and my son happens to be texting me tweets or texts of support. He's in Florida scuba diving for spring break. So it was like, oh, I've got the house to myself. I've got a video camera. Now's the time. But he's telling me, he just sent me a text that says, I believe in you. So with that kind of encouragement, I'll turn off the ringer. But that is like high praise coming from a 17-year-old. So what I'm going to do today is, I'm going to do quite a few things today. But the first in this inaugural podcast is I'm going to talk a little bit about what's important to me, why I'm doing a podcast, what kinds of things I'm going to cover, why I'm covering it. And I'll talk a little bit about myself and just sort of what makes me tick, why I feel the way that I feel about several issues. I'm going to basically highlight a handful of issues today and then do a sort of a deep dive about those handful of issues. But this is really more about setting a tone for the future shows. So, again, this is the first of what, hopefully will be, 20 years worth of podcasts. So sit back and buckle up. So first, my name is Greer McVay. I live in California. I have lived in Texas. I have traveled a little bit around the country and outside of the country. So I've seen some things. I've seen how other people live. I've seen the real America. And for the most part, I like what I see. I'm relatively comfortable. I could always do better. Like everybody, I want more, but I do okay. I'm a single mom. I have a 17-year-old son. He is a junior in high school. He just turned 17 last week. And a lot of what drives me is, obviously I'm a mom. So it is stuff that impacts family, stuff that impacts my household. Issues that impact my son, raising a child in this kind of environment. I got concerns about finances, I've got concerns about education, I've got concerns about health, I've got concerns about race and politics. So there are a lot of hot button issues. So overall, this show, which I have not yet named, but for today we'll call it Greer McVay's podcast. This show is about politics. It is a political podcast that I will derive a lot of the content from pop culture and what is and current events. I should say that the other way around. So I'll derive the content from current events, but I pepper in some pop cultural references, and just fun stuff. I like to think I'm fun. I like to think I'm funny. I know people who are watching now that are like, no, Greer, you're not funny. But I promise at some point I will make you laugh. Today is Easter, so happy Easter or happy Resurrection Day. for those of you who celebrate Easter and recognize Easter. And it is also April 1st. So that just happens to be April Fool's Day. And I think sort of what prompted me to finally get around to doing this podcast today is, I won't say it's because it's April Fool's, but because we have a fool in the White House who woke up this morning tweeting nonsense about, DACA and all of that. I was like, you know what? Today's the day. I'm home alone. I got nothing else to do. So I decided that, and because the sun is shining, I decided that today was a good day to record a podcast, to sit out in my lovely backyard and listen to the birds. I don't know if you can hear them, but the birds actually make me happy. So I'm going to sit out here in my backyard, listening to the birds, watching the sun, and when I finish, as soon as I finish, I'm going to pour a glass of wine and sit over by my fire pit. So that's how my day is going. So let's just sort of dive in to some of the politics, some of the things that are going on, the politics around it. Certainly I'm going to talk about Trump and Russia. Again, weaving in some other ideas and some other issues, and then as we go over the next few months and years together, I hope you guys will go along this journey with me. But as we do that, clearly the landscape will be changing. And what I hope to do is to incorporate, not just talk about what is happening or why I believe it's happening, but why or how it impacts me, which is why it's so important. So as an example, we can just take the Affordable Care Act as an issue, or Obamacare, as Republicans so derisively want to label it. They spent 7 years talking about, oh my God, we hate Obamacare, it's job-killing Obamacare, and Obama hates America, and Obama this, and Obama that, and how dare he give health care, and all this other stuff, while simultaneously saying, I'm a Christian, and, we've got to help our fellow man, but we can't give him health care. So, you take that, so I happen to believe that that the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, was a reasonable compromise. I don't know that it was the best solution, but it was certainly a better solution than having 40 million people without health care in the country. So, again, using that as an example, why it's important to me, I have a job. I have a day job. So, through my day job, I have health care. So, it wasn't critical for me, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that I've got mine, so, screw those of you who don't. So, first of all, that's just not good enough. We can do better as a nation. Secondly, while I have health care, if other people don't have health care and they access health care through the emergency room or through other sources, then the cost of my health care is going to go up proportionally. So, would I rather, as a consumer of healthcare services, would I rather pay more for healthcare for people to get it in the emergency room? Or would I just want the people to just be healthy in the first place? Just go ahead, get your healthcare, get seen, get treated, stay healthy. Do it as a preventive issue, and not, when you're in dire straits. So that's just sort of how I think. Furthermore, I don't want to walk over people dying in the street. There was a time when people were dying of, bubonic plague or polio, botulism, whatever, scurvy, in the streets, jumping off of boats because they were dying. So why would we do that? So again, we've got an issue. We have my opinion. We have why it's important to me. And then, of course, there's the fact that I have a child who will be grown in another year or two. And the idea that he gets to stay on my health care, assuming I have health care for him to stay on until he's 26, is a good thing. He may or may not have a job or the kind of job that would afford him health care. Hopefully he'll have a job because he's not going to be living in my basement. But that said, it's really important that not just me and mine have something. It's important that everybody have it. So I'm just trying to look at an issue from multiple vantage points and help people who follow me sort of stay abreast on what's happening, because it is a lot. It really is a lot to be up to the minute on everything that's going on. So that's just sort of my approach to things. Now, let's talk about this president of ours for a minute. I'm going to smile. He is our president. He's my president. I'm not one of those people who says, not my president or whatever. He is my president. And the reason that I am fairly adamant about that is because, one, it's a fact. He is the president of the United States until he is not. Two, apparently we need a reminder of what has happened or is happening to us. There are apparently at least 33% of the people who, no matter what, are going to support this man, who continue to support him, who think that he is, that Jesus brought him. So I guess, today is the day that, Jesus returned and was like, let's make sure that, Trump is president so that he can tweet about getting rid of DACA kids because he doesn't know what they are. That's another story. Anyway, so we have a president who became president under some questionable circumstances. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I'm not convinced that votes weren't tampered with. I'm just putting that out there, just saying. So, but there's this investigation going on. So I think the sort of the backdrop or the biggest thing that is happening. So in addition to the day-to-day and governance and or lack thereof and policies that are being invoked or undone, undoing Obama's legacy or getting rid of deregulation and all that. In addition to all of that, there is this investigation that's going on, and you've got a lot of people who just aren't tapped into it. Well, I'm tapped into it like this. Tap, 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 tap. I'm tapped into it. So I will be talking about that a lot. Not incessantly, but a lot. Largely because that's a big part of every single day. Every single day there is some sort of Trump, Russia shenanigans that are either still going on or being uncovered or being reported. Some of our reporters are doing an amazing, I say our reporters, but by our reporters I mean reporters. Whether they're with the Washington Times or the New York Times or the Washington, not the Washington Times, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, McClatchy, just Reuters, they're just the reporters, the Guardian. They're reporters out there that are doing a yeoman's work, getting in there, learning about the leaks, and Trump's White House is leaking like a drippy faucet. So that information is coming to us. We're able to see what Robert Mueller, the special prosecutor, we're able to sort of follow along, although not closely because he doesn't have any leaks. So although people are complaining, oh my God, Mueller and he's leaking, and Comey and they're bad, and That's BS. I hope you know that. But again, we'll talk more about that as we go. It isn't BS. It is real. Mueller has assembled a team of people who are apparently have lots of experience in the kinds of specializations in different areas like taxes, tax evasion, and RICO acts, and money crimes, and bribery, and all kinds of things. And that stuff is coming. It's coming out. But what's interesting is that it comes out in the form of leaks, but they're the leaks from the people who have been investigated. So basically, they're the people on Trump's team, like, who was the guy that had the meltdown a couple of weeks ago? Now I can't think of his name. Oh, shoot. See, that would be today. And I had a list and I left it in the house. But he's Roger Stone's friend, the little chubby guy. And he just decided one day that he was going to go on every single TV show and he was going to just talk about, and I'm not guilty, and I didn't do this, and Roger Stone's a great guy, and I'm not going to, Mueller's not going to pull me in, I'm going to defy the subpoena. And then, 2 days later, he was in there testifying in front of a grand jury. But it's people like him who are, who are revealing sort of what it is that Mueller's asking about, so we're able to sort of keep track. And for those of you who are like, yeah, it's just so complicated. You got, all these Russians and these crazy Russian vessel Neskaya and Deripaska and Kaepernick. Oh no, not Kaepernick, but Deripaska and Vladimir Kozachenko or whatever. For all of you that are just like you can't follow it, it really isn't that complicated. If you can remember, or if you watched All My Children or Young and the Restless, and you could keep track of Erica Kane's husbands, and dating back to Tom Cudahy, and if you could follow Palmer Cortland, or if you knew how many times Nikki and the mustache, what was his name? Victor and Nikki got married. If Newman, Victor Newman and Nikki Newman, if you could follow that, then you can follow this. So it really isn't that complicated. What you need to do is wrap your head around the main players, the main characters, and I think maybe in my next podcast episode, I will sit down with a chart and I will go over sort of the whole thing. But basically, if you can keep track of the names of the people, who are they? What is their connection to the picture, to Trump, essentially? But how do they factor in? Were they on the campaign team? Are they a family member? Are they a part of the Russian mob? Are they an oligarch or whatever? If you can just keep track of sort of the basics, that they keep sort of throwing in a new character from now and again, like the Vander Swan guy last week. It's like, who is he? Wait, where did he come from? It's like when Sarah Palin is like Russia, and it's like, oh, where'd they go? Where'd they go? Yeah, I can see Russia from my house. Yeah, you can see Russia from your house because Putin has been up to this for 10 years now. And by the way, I believe that he's been up to it in part because Paul Manafort, Trump's campaign manager, wrote a plan for Deripaska, who he was working for how to influence a U.S. election or how to win elections. And he needed it for himself back in Ukraine, but he also needed it for, but it's also a blueprint, serves as a blueprint for what's going on here. So there's just some basic things that if you could just sort of open your head, wrap your head around it, understand it, then as this goes, you just follow along. And again, like any soap opera or reality show, if you miss an episode, if you miss a day, it's okay. You can come back and get back on deck, okay? But if you don't, I'm here to sort of do the hard work for you. So let me see what else. So we've got a White House that's in chaos, basically, because we have a president who is a combination of man-child, a combination of unhinged. He is under so much pressure, which I think at the end of the day is probably the biggest thing. Imagine if you, I don't know, robbed a bank and you had the money hidden in your mattress. Every time you see a police officer drive down the street, you're going to be like, oh my God, is today the day? Every time that you hear about a bank robbery, you're like, have they figured it out? Every time somebody comes to your house and is like, oh, let me, I don't know, lay down on your bed. I don't know who all these people are that want to come and lay down on your bed. But if somebody wanted to come lay down on your bed, you'd be like, oh shoot, they're going to get my money. They're going to figure it out. Are they going to tell? Is that a, So it would start to consume you. That's part of Trump's problem. He is consumed with this crime that he committed, which is basically treason, by allowing himself to get hooked up with the Russians to get him into office. And he did that for the ongoing crime, which is to get all of his pals and friends in there to dismantle everything, to undo what Obama did, the good things that he did for the people, or the previous presidents, not just Obama, did for the people. And some previous presidents actually did some bad things for the people too. So we're not necessarily excusing that. And for the record, I didn't like everything that Obama did, but that's another episode. But you've got this president who is trying to undo the regulation and get at the money in the Treasury, which apparently they did back in December when they passed the tax bill. The tax bill that essentially raised the deficit, raised the debt $1.5 trillion. And then now they're like, oh, well, the debt's so high and then the deficit is so high, we're going to have to cut back. So how do we cut back? Oh, let's get rid of Medicare and Medi-Cal and food for the hungry and housing for the poor. And, we just can't have that. Let's get rid of Meals on Wheels. It's like, really? We can't do that because, now I sound like Bernie, because millionaires and billionaires had to get a tax cut. But at the end of the day, that's what happened. Trump did this thing with Russia, I believe, so that he could get in there to do this thing to get the money so that they could, for a combination of reasons. And everybody associated with Trump wants something out of the deal. Whether it's Russian oil deals, whether it's Betsy DeVos and her people that want private schools, that want to rule the education realm, or people that just want to deregulate banks so that they can get more money. But at the end of the day, it's about everybody having better access to money. Why else would you put a bunch of people who know nothing in charge of all the things, all the departments that control the levers of everything? Then we've got this whole issue. There go my hands. I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep them down here below the camera, but I get a little emotional. But then we have the whole issue with people like Devin Nunes and others, but Devin Nunes is probably the one that comes to mind the most. But Paul Ryan and others who are just completely absent. They're like, I see nothing. I don't know what you're talking about. Trump, who? Oh my God, he's a great president. He's president, and the way that presidents ought to president. And it's like, no, he is not. So it's really important that we all take a step back. Understand this new world in which we're operating. where the people who are in charge do not have our best interests at heart. And by our, I mean regular people. Regular people who get up, who go to work every day for a living. People basically who earn a living through work, through labor, who get a paycheck. People who have small businesses. People who literally are just sort of trying to make it, want to have a nice life, want to spend time with their family and friends, and just enjoy their lives. Those are the people that I'm talking about. People who want to rule the world and who, need, a bigger jet, and that have, pissing competitions about whose jet is bigger and whose, mansion is bigger and all that. Those are not really the people I'm talking about. Hats off to them. But that's not who I'm talking about. I'm talking about having elected officials who represent the people who elected them. Not people who would dismiss or disregard, 80% of the people, 95% of the people that want background checks for guns, or who want, who want to keep Obamacare. And they're like, well, no, because our donors or our, donors don't want it, or our 1% don't want it. That's not who I'm talking about, and that's not who this podcast is for. Although I welcome them to watch and get a mom's perspective. So we're going to go into those kinds of issues. We're going to talk about why, how we can get along. We're going to talk about what we can do. Is it vote? Is it protest? Is it writing letters to Congress? What is it that we can all do to make strides toward that more perfect union that our Constitution originally planned? Again, I will reveal some stuff about me as we go. Like, I do believe in the Constitution. I know that's kind of nerdy. And we're going to have fun along the way. And as a matter of fact, I need to go check online because I'm not sure if Khloe Kardashian had her baby yet. These are things that people want to know. So, did Khloe have her baby? I read something about Beyonce got bit, but I haven't had time to go back and say, what the hell is this? Who bit Beyonce? Why would somebody bite Beyonce? And Chrissy Teigen knows who bit Beyonce but won't say, or something like that. I read yesterday that there's an asteroid or a meteor. I think it's an asteroid. Maybe it's a meteorite that from the space shuttle that's plummeting toward Earth, and it's like supposed to be here like in the next day or two, and that was like a day or two ago. So maybe I should not be sitting out here, or maybe I want to be sitting out here so I can see it, so I can run, so it doesn't just like crash into my roof. But there are all kinds of things going on, and some of them are just so fun and wonderful, and they're dancing cats and babies and fun things, and then there are just crazy political stuff, and then there's just some crazy people doing stupid stuff. I saw some girl killed a giraffe because she said they were dangerous or something, because there's been I guess giraffes running the streets, endangering people. It's like, well, did you go to the jungle? Where does one find a giraffe other than at a zoo and at a jungle? And you don't get to kill them at the zoo. So if you're in the jungle or in the Serengeti or the Outback or whatever, I don't know, wherever it is that giraffes are, then you're wrong. And if they're doing something dangerous, that's probably what God intended for them to do, to save themselves from people who would kill them. Anyway, so there are some mean people I might call out, and there are some really wonderful people out there doing things that I might call out. on a final note, I also intend to, not necessarily, I don't know how many interviews I'm going to do. I don't know how many interviews I want to do, but I will have like some guests, some friends come sit in with me, and those probably will be the episodes where you do the most laughing, because I've got some funny ass friends. So I'm signing off on this first podcast. I'm going to consider it in the bag. It's not perfect. I know I'm sort of, I'm probably over here looking at the camera because I can see myself on the side, just to make sure I'm still in the frame, and that the light is still on. And I'm sure I said a few too many times. I'm sure you got using my hands too much. Those are things that I'm going to work on, and it'll get better as time goes on. But for now, the important thing was to do today the most you could do to make today the best day it could be. And I've now done that. So now I'm going to go turn on my fire pit and have a glass of wine. See ya. Oh yeah, I'm Greer McVay, signing off.